Is Kansas cooked?
No. Cooked.
Got smacked at Creighton. They get smacked. Made a comeback, but they got beat pretty good at Missouri.
Define cooked. You got to define
what does
that.
that mean?
Like what do you mean? Like,
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. That's what I wrote down on the rundown. Is Kansas?
There's no specifics here.
Are they lost to number one team in the country, loses 2 games in a week to unranked opponents? How worried should you be about Kansas? I feel like the concerns that we had are pretty legitimate. Like you go back, you watch that Missouri game, look how much space they have in the paint. Look how often Missouri is just saying, I don't give a shit about that shooter. I don't give a shit about him. I don't give a shit about him. Putting 3 bodies in front of the rim when you run your pick and roll. What are you going to do? There's no space. I think it's officially a concern for me.
Rivalry games are weird, and the Border War is a big-time rivalry. Mizzou played great. They knocked down shots. Tamar Bates was awesome. I gave him my toast of the night last night. I'm not necessarily super worried about Kansas because I don't think that they're going to turn the ball over like they have, especially against Mizzou. I think they ended up with, what, 22?
That was crazy.
That doesn't happen. Go, Fanta. Hold on. Let me clear the floor. Fanta's fired up. Go, Fanta. Go.
Okay. They're not cooked, but I am worried about them. They're not a national championship team today. In fact, they're far from it. And here's why. They can't shoot. So DeJuan Harris, the last 2 games, is 11 for 35 from the floor. 11? He's the point guard of the team. He's taken 35 shots. 35 in 2 games. AJ Storr, last 2 games, 5 for 20. Zeke Mayo, beautiful magic act in Missouri yesterday. Couldn't find him. Disappeared out of thin air. Their transfer class has not lived up to expectation. And Hunter Dickinson's an All-American player. He is not an All-American defender.
No.
And they lack elite rim protection. This is a team that is not a top 10 team right now. They're not playing well. And AJ Storr, Bill Self even lit a fire under him yesterday. I was looking at Self's post-game comments. He pretty much said AJ Storr hasn't been good enough. Now, when you're getting paid, you can say that about your players. And it was interesting to hear Self say that. You could just tell, guys, sometimes there's a reason why certain kids are making 3 or 4 stops in as many years, for a variety of reasons. Nothing against the kids, just the reality of the situation. Sometimes kids get unlocked at their 3rd or 4th stop. Other times it just doesn't pan out. Does that mean Kansas is dead? No. But in comparison to our original expectations, my problem with Kansas is this. I thought against Creighton, I thought they just kind of quit. Like they really never punched a heavy punch against a Creighton team that was coming in struggling. And then against Missouri, I got the same types of sentiments. I thought they put up a little bit of a fight. They got back within 9, but it wasn't happening. I don't like the attitude of this team. I don't sense a leader on this team. I don't know who the leader is on this team. And I do wonder, is Hunter Dickinson just a heavily productive player, but not ultimately a champion? Zach,
I think that there's sorry to cut you off. I think that there's a little bit of that with it, right? Like when you have a kind of slow-footed 7-footer that you're running everything around, it kind of causes you issues offensively. And when you don't have a roster that accentuates that player's skills, then you're not getting the best out of Hunter offensively while also putting him in situations where you're asking him to do more defending than he should be doing, if that makes sense. I think that AJ Storr is not the right fit for he's more of a slasher than a shooter. Like if you took AJ Storr off of this roster and just put, Ryan Conwell on this roster, I think that it would look a lot different because you would have a guy that's built to shoot and built to space as opposed to built to kind of put the ball on the floor and find a way to get to the rim, if that makes sense. The Creighton one, I'm a little bit forgiving of because one, I think Creighton, when they had Pop Isaacs, it sucks that he's out for the year, but when they had him, they were a top 10 to 12 kind of a team. When he got going, and they are you put Kalkbrenner on Hunter Dickinson and you just chase people like that. That is, they are a really good matchup and they are better than what their record has been this season. So I think that's part of it.
By the way, if Creighton's bubbly, The fact they can say they won that game, that was
Yep.
man, because they might be bubbling.
and
They might be right around that bubble, but that's a big win for them. Big feather in the cap.
I just, T.O., I'll let you go now, man. I think that, one, it's a great win for Missouri. They did a really good job forcing turnovers. Kansas looks so confused, but I just think that this is kind of a flawed roster that Kansas has. Your three best players can't shoot.
I'll be honest. The only one that I was a little nervous about when they signed him was David Coit, and he just small guards like that. Gosh, it's hard. It's really hard when you're going up against legitimate size. And hey, Mizzou has legitimate size, and they have defensive pieces. Hunter Dickinson, to me, guys, he just kind of is what he is. Like, we figured him out, and other teams have figured him out. And if he's not going to be a leader and a communicator back there at the 5 spot and be poor, like and be poor on the defensive end, like that's a real problem. He's going to have to pick that up, or it's just going to be much of the same of what we've been getting over the past few years from him.